The air inside the massive transport ship was thick with tension, every face a mirror of fear, anger, and disbelief. Humanity's fate had been sealed by the Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of alien species that had watched Earth's reckless expansion for decades. Now the punishment was clear and brutal: exile to Erythra 9, a planet so deadly it had earned the chilling nickname Death World. The Council's message echoed through the ship's speakers, cold and final. Humanity is a threat to galactic peace. You will be removed from all inhabited space and left to survive on Erythra 9. No chance for appeal, no mercy, just exile. As the ship's engines roared, the great blue and green planet Earth was reduced to a distant speck behind them, a home they might never see again. The transport ship shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of Erythra 9, the thick clouds outside, swirling with violent storms and flashes of lightning that painted the dark skies in brief bursts of electric blue. Outside the small windows, jagged mountains towered over dense, twisted forests that seemed alive, shifting and moving with a life of their own. The ship's artificial gravity flickered as it descended, making stomachs churn and nerves fray. Among the thousands aboard, Captain Ilara Jansen kept her eyes fixed on the view screen, her mind racing. The planet was unlike anything she had ever seen in her years of service: hostile, wild, unforgiving. The few moments of silence in the cabin were shattered by the loud clunk as the ship's landing gear touched down hard on rocky ground. The vibrations shook the floor beneath their feet. The hatch hissed open, and a wave of hot, humid air hit them, thick with the smell of decay and something metallic, sharp and unsettling. The first humans to step outside gasped, their boots sinking slightly into the soft, moss-covered earth. Towering trees with bark like metal stretched above, their leaves glowing faintly under the dim red sun. Strange creatures scuttled quickly between roots and rocks, disappearing before anyone could get a good look. This was the world that was supposed to be humanity's grave. The Council's intention was clear. Humans would die here, forgotten, their species wiped from history, but the humans were not ready to give up so easily. The Council's drones buzzed overhead, watching every move, their cold sensors ready to report any sign of rebellion or escape attempts. Ilara ordered the soldiers to set up a perimeter and build shelters from the ship's emergency supplies, and whatever they could find in the environment. The first days were hellish. Toxic storms swept over the camp, forcing everyone to take cover as acidic rain burned exposed skin. At night, eerie howls echoed through the forest, keeping even the bravest awake. Food was scarce. The native plants were poisonous, and the animals that roamed nearby were far more dangerous than any predator on Earth. Many fell ill, and others simply vanished without a trace. Panic and despair grew like weeds among the survivors. Yet, even in the darkest hours, something inside the humans stirred, a stubborn spark of hope and determination. Ilara met daily with her commanders, trying to keep order and morale. Scientists among them began testing the soil, the air, and the strange plants, searching for anything that could be used for medicine or food. Scouts ventured cautiously into the forests, returning with terrifying stories of gigantic insects with armored shells and jaws strong enough to crush bone. But the humans learned quickly. They set traps, crafted weapons from scrap metal, and devised signals to warn each other of approaching danger. Children and elders were moved to safer areas, while the able-bodied worked tirelessly to expand the camp. Rumors started spreading about small groups discovering underground caves where the air was cleaner and water flowed freely. It was a slim hope, but enough to drive them forward. Meanwhile, the Council's drones hovered relentlessly, their glowing eyes a constant reminder that humanity was under watch, that any sign of rebellion would be crushed before it began. But humans had never been known for obeying orders quietly. Ilara noticed changes in some individuals. Strange marks on their skin, sharper reflexes, stronger endurance. Could it be the planet itself was changing them? Was Erythra 9 trying to fight back, or was it offering a chance to survive? The first part of humanity's story on this death world was just beginning, and the question that hung in the air like the heavy, poisonous fog was simple yet terrifying. Would they survive long enough to become something more, or would this world finally bury humanity forever? The first winter on Erythra 9 was unlike any season humanity had ever faced, a brutal test that pushed the exiles to the very edge of their endurance. As the red sun dipped lower in the sky, the temperature plunged sharply, biting into exposed skin and chilling the bones of the living. The camp, hastily built in the early days of exile, now seemed fragile and vulnerable, a fragile bubble in the vast wilderness of the death world. Storms grew fiercer, whipping jagged branches and dark clouds that rattled the makeshift shelters. With relentless fury, the acidic rain returned with renewed strength, forcing the survivors to stay huddled inside their tents and crude huts for days at a time, their spirits wilting with every passing hour. Food supplies, already scarce, began to run dangerously low as hunting the giant armored insects and venomous creatures outside became too risky in the harsh weather. Many of the weaker members of the colony fell sick, their bodies unable to cope with the cold or the planet's strange toxins. Doctors worked tirelessly, but medicine was almost non-existent, and hope began to fade like the dying embers of a fire. Yet amid this growing despair, small signs of change flickered among the people. Some individuals, especially those who had faced the planet's worst storms and predators, seemed to grow stronger instead of weaker. Their wounds healed faster, their senses sharpened, and their endurance surpassed anything seen before in human history. At first, these changes were dismissed as lucky coincidences or psychological effects of desperation, but the truth soon became impossible to ignore. Elara Jansen watched with a mixture of awe and fear as these changed humans took on dangerous tasks, scouting deeper into the hostile forest, returning with stories of strange plants that seemed to glow faintly even in the darkness, and animals that didn't attack them on sight, but instead appeared curious, almost cautious. Meanwhile, the harsh winter forced the survivors to innovate or perish. Engineers and scientists worked together to build better shelters, using the strange metallic trees and flexible vines that resisted storms and cold. They developed new heating systems fueled by biomass collected from the forest floor, and created filters to purify the toxic air just enough to breathe during the worst acid storms. Communication between enclaves improved, with runners and signal fires marking safe paths through the dangerous jungle. Yet the biggest threat wasn't just nature or hunger, it was the loneliness and fear that gnawed at every human soul. Isolation from Earth, from everything familiar, weighed heavily. The Council's drones never left the sky, a constant reminder that they were prisoners, watched and judged, their deaths expected. Some nights, Elara would stand on the edge of the camp, staring into the dark forest, wondering if the planet itself was alive, waiting for humanity to break completely or to change into something new. Stories spread among the exiles about strange sightings. A human child moving with unnatural speed, a hunter with glowing eyes seen only at dusk, shadows that seemed to shift and blend with the jungle. Whispers of mutation stirred fear and fascination. In equal measure, the scientists, desperate for answers, began collecting samples from those affected, running tests in crude labs built from salvaged tech. Their findings baffled everyone. The planet's unique radiation was interacting with human DNA in unpredictable ways, activating dormant genes and triggering new biological functions. This revelation brought new hope, but also new dangers. What if these mutations went beyond control? Could the humans become something unrecognizable even to themselves? As the frost thickened on the leaves and nights grew longer, a small group of these new humans formed, quietly banding together for protection and exploration. They discovered underground caves that provided shelter and warmth, filled with strange crystals that pulsed softly with energy. The caves became their refuge and laboratory, where they learned to harness their new abilities and understand the strange planet that was reshaping them. Back at the main camp, tensions rose as some survivors grew wary of the mutants, fearing their power and what it might mean for humanity's fragile society. Old fears and prejudices sparked conflicts that threatened to tear the colony apart. Ilara struggled to maintain peace, knowing that unity was their only chance to survive the endless winter and the planet's ever-present dangers. The Council, monitoring from afar, grew uneasy as their reports detailed the humans' unexpected resilience and adaptation. Orders came down to increase drone patrols and prepare for possible intervention if the colony became too powerful. But the humans, hardened by months of hardship and united by their will to live, refused to be broken. As the first winter dragged on, the exiles of humanity faced death at every turn, from storms, starvation, sickness, and each other. But they also began to glimpse a future where survival was not enough, where they could rise above the harsh world that was supposed to kill them. The cold, dark nights were long and filled with uncertainty, but inside, the hearts of the humans burned a fierce light, a stubborn hope that maybe, just maybe, they would not only endure, but transform and conquer the death world that held them captive. The harsh winter finally began to thaw, but the struggle for survival on Erythra 9 was far from over. As the planet's red sun slowly climbed higher, warming the twisted forests and jagged mountains, humanity found itself changing in ways no one could have predicted. These changes began small, almost invisible at first, like faint whispers, beneath the roar of storms and the cries of alien beasts. But soon the mutations grew undeniable, visible, and impossible to ignore. Some humans developed sharper eyesight, able to see in near darkness, while others gained strength and speed beyond natural limits, their bodies adapting to the toxic atmosphere and harsh terrain in ways that both frightened and fascinated their comrades. These mutations seemed linked to the planet itself, as if Erythra 9 was rewriting human DNA, creating a new form of life born from struggle and necessity, a transformation that carried hope but also uncertainty. A small group of those changed formed a secretive band, led by a young woman named Mara, whose eyes glowed faintly in the dark and whose reflexes made her a deadly hunter. Mara and her companions ventured deep into the unknown forest, seeking answers about the strange powers growing inside them and the alien ecosystem around them. During one of their explorations, they discovered a network of glowing plants that pulsed with an energy that felt alive, almost intelligent, and nearby. Enormous creatures that normally would have attacked seemed to watch them with curious eyes instead. These discoveries suggested a strange symbiosis between the mutated humans and the Deathworld's life forms, a connection that could either save them or doom them if it twisted too far. Back at the main camp, fear spread among those who had not changed, some seeing the mutants as threats, others as miracles, and tensions rose as old bonds frayed under the pressure of survival and difference. Scientists raced to study the mutants, collecting samples and running tests in their crude laboratories, uncovering that the planet's radiation was not only altering human biology, but awakening dormant traits linked to human ancestors, traits that hinted at a deeper evolutionary potential long buried within their genes. This revelation sparked fierce debate among the survivors. Was humanity evolving into something greater or losing itself in the process? Meanwhile, the Council's drones continued to monitor from above, their reports growing more worried. As the humans not only survived but thrived in this hostile world, their physical changes and new alliances with native creatures making them unpredictable and dangerous. Mara and her group stumbled upon ancient ruins buried beneath the forest floor, remnants of a civilization that had once called Erythra 9 home, offering clues about how these previous inhabitants had adapted or failed in the same deadly environment. Among the ruins were strange devices that pulsed with energy and symbols that matched the glowing plants, suggesting the planet itself might be alive in a way beyond human understanding. As the mutated humans experimented with these discoveries, learning to control their new abilities and communicate with the alien flora and fauna, the line between human and death world blurred, creating a new identity forged in the fires of survival and change. Yet danger lurked not just in the environment, but within the colony itself, as distrust grew between the mutants and the untouched, and a secret faction began to form, plotting to eliminate those who had changed, fearing that their powers threatened the fragile order and humanity's future. Ilara, still the reluctant leader, found herself caught between factions, struggling to keep the colony united while confronting the unknown consequences of mutation and discovery. In the shadows of the jungle, unknown to the humans, the planet's life forms seemed to respond to these changes, some growing restless, others protective, as if the death world itself watched and waited to see what would come next. The suspense built like a tightening noose. Would humanity's new form bring salvation or destruction? Would the mutated humans become leaders of a new era? Or would fear and violence tear them apart before they could rise? The answers lay buried in the depths of the jungle and the mysteries of the planet's glowing heart, waiting for those brave enough to uncover them. In a world where death was expected but transformation was possible, and where every choice could mean the difference between extinction and evolution. As the harshness of Erythra 9's seasons began to settle into a strange rhythm, humanity was no longer just fighting to survive. They were starting to rise beyond. Survival forging a new life from the chaos and danger that had once threatened to end them all. The changes brought by the planet's strange energy had deepened, with more humans developing abilities that defied what anyone thought possible, like healing quickly from wounds, communicating silently, or moving with uncanny speed and strength. Mara and her group became the pioneers of this new age, blending their skills with the planet's unique resources to build settlements that weren't merely shelters, but living extensions of the death world itself. Structures grown from the glowing vines and metal-like trees, resilient and alive, responding to touch and thought. The camps no longer looked like fragile outposts, but thriving communities where humans and nature intertwined in a delicate balance. A fusion of technology and biology that was both beautiful and eerie. Scientists working in the caves beneath the ruins continued to unravel secrets of the planet's past inhabitants, discovering that this world had once been home to a species that had mastered bioengineering to such an extent that they had fused their own bodies with the living environment, creating a civilization that lived in harmony with the planet, but ultimately vanished, raising questions about the fate that might await humanity. As the humans learned from these ancient lessons, they developed new technologies based on biosymbiosis, tools and weapons grown from living matter, healing salves made from glowing plants, and even communication devices that picked up subtle signals from the environment, blurring the line between organic and artificial. The new culture that emerged was unlike any before, marked by a profound respect for the planet's power and a willingness to change themselves to fit its demands, rather than trying to conquer it as Earth's old ways had dictated. However, this rise also brought new conflicts and dangers. Within the human ranks, factions formed, those who embraced the transformation and those who feared it, longing for the lost Earth and the old human ways. Tensions sparked arguments and sometimes violence, threatening to unravel the fragile unity that had allowed them to survive the Deathworld's first trials. Ilara, now older and wiser, acted as the colony's steady anchor, balancing hope with caution, pushing for peace while preparing for the inevitable struggles ahead. But the threat from outside was growing too. The Galactic Council, watching from afar, had sent envoys demanding answers, concerned that humanity's evolution on Erythra 9 could lead to a power no one could control. Their ships loomed on the horizon, a reminder that the exile might not end with survival, but with war. As the Council's forces approached, the humans had to prepare quickly, training new warriors enhanced by their mutations, strategizing not just for defense, but for a fight that could decide their very future. The forest seemed to respond to the coming storm as well, the glowing plants pulsing faster, the creatures of the jungle moving with an almost purposeful awareness, as if the planet itself was gearing up for the battle that would shape what humanity could become. Amid this growing tension, Mara discovered a new secret deep within the ruins, a hidden chamber filled with knowledge and tools left behind by the planet's lost civilization, offering the chance to unlock even greater powers, or risk complete destruction if mishandled. With these discoveries came a heavy choice: to push forward into the unknown, embracing transformation and the uncertain future, or to cling to fading memories of Earth and risk losing everything. The humans face this moment as one. Warriors, scientists, leaders, and mutants alike, standing on the edge of change, ready to defy the death that was meant to claim them and rise as something new, something greater. The story of humanity on Erythra 9 had shifted from one of exile and despair to a daring saga of survival, evolution, and defiance against the dark forces both within and beyond their world, leaving the question hanging in the charged air. Could they truly become masters of this death world, or would the planet's deadly legacy consume them all? The day the Galactic Council's fleet appeared on the horizon was the day everything changed, as massive ships darkened the sky above the transformed human colonies on Erythra 9, their metal hulls reflecting the strange red sunlight in cold, silent judgment, signaling the arrival of forces meant not to negotiate, but to judge and possibly destroy what the Council still saw as a dangerous, uncontrollable species. The humans had grown stronger and more united, yet they knew this encounter could end in bloodshed or submission, neither of which they wanted, but survival demanded readiness. Captain Ilara Jansen, standing atop a ridge overlooking the camp that had evolved into a living city of glowing biostructures, felt a surge of determination mixed with uncertainty as she gathered the leaders, warriors, and mutants who had forged this new society against impossible odds. Mara, now a seasoned warrior and symbol of the mutated humans, moved silently through the ranks, her glowing eyes scanning the skies for any sign of weakness or opportunity, knowing that the fight ahead was not just physical, but a battle for humanity's soul. The Council's envoy came first, shiny, cold representatives demanding humans surrender their weapons and powers to submit once again to judgment and exile or extinction. But humanity refused to bow, their voices united in defiance, declaring that they had become more than victims. They were survivors, warriors, and the future. When the Council's emissaries threatened force, the skies exploded as war erupted. Humans, enhanced by the Death World's mutations and armed with living technology grown from the planet itself, fought with a ferocity and strategy the invaders had not expected. Mara led daring raids, striking swiftly and vanishing into the glowing forests, while Ilara coordinated defenses and rallied the people with calm authority. The battle was brutal. Metal clashed with living armor, laser fire met bioorganic shields, and the ground shook as the planet itself seemed to respond to the conflict. The mutated humans showed uncanny abilities, blending into the environment, healing rapidly and commanding the native beasts to aid their cause. Despite their advanced technology, the Council's forces struggled against this unpredictable new enemy, their strategies failing to adapt to the symbiotic bond between humans and Erythra 9. The skies filled with smoke and light as the fight spread across forests, ruins, and caves, the echoes of war blending with the planet's own fierce roar. Amidst the chaos, the humans uncovered an ancient weapon hidden deep in the ruins, an energy source capable of amplifying their biotechnology beyond anything imagined, but activating it came with risks that could tear the delicate balance of their world apart. Ilara faced the hardest decision of her life, knowing that unleashing this power might save humanity, but could also destroy the planet they had come to call home. With no other choice, she gave the order, and a wave of energy surged through the colony, empowering every defender, turning the tide of battle. The Council's fleet faltered under this unexpected force, their ships damaged and retreating, their message clear. Humanity on Erythra 9 was no longer a species to be controlled or destroyed lightly. Victory came at a cost. Many brave souls were lost, and the planet bore scars from the war. But the humans stood united and free, their defiance echoing through the galaxy. In the quiet that followed, Ilara and Mara looked out over their world, knowing this reckoning had marked a new chapter. One where humanity was not just surviving, but shaping their destiny on a death world that had become their cradle of strength and evolution. But as the Council withdrew, defeated but wary, a deeper question lingered. With such power now awakened, what future awaited this changed humanity, and could they control the force that had saved them, or would it consume them? As the planet's harsh legacy whispered in the winds, as the smoke from the great battle slowly faded and the red skies of Erythra 9 began to clear, a new dawn rose over the transformed world, signaling not just the end of conflict, but the beginning of a future no one had dared to imagine. The survivors, battered yet unbroken, gathered amid the glowing forests and living cities they had built, their faces a mix of exhaustion, hope, and something deeper, pride in what they had become and a fierce determination to shape what they would be. Ilara Jansen stood atop the highest biospire, looking out over the land that was once a death trap, but now pulsed with life and promise, knowing that the greatest challenges lay ahead, even as the immediate threat of the Galactic Council's wrath had been pushed back. The planet, alive and responding to the humans' newfound strength, seemed to hum beneath her feet, a reminder that Erythra 9 was no longer just a prison, but a partner in their evolution. Mara, ever vigilant, moved through the crowds, her glowing eyes watching over those who were still adapting, still learning to live with the changes inside them. Some embraced their new forms with courage, while others struggled with fear and uncertainty, haunted by what they had lost and what they had gained. The scientists, working tirelessly in their caves and labs, had begun to unlock the mysteries of the planet's energy, discovering ways to control and harness it safely. But the risks remained, for the power that had saved them could just as easily spiral beyond control, threatening to consume everything in a wave of destruction. Debates filled the council chambers about how to govern this new society, torn between those who wanted to push forward into transformation and those who clung to the old ways of humanity, longing for the comfort of Earth's memory, but knowing it was gone forever. The mutants and the unchanged formed bonds and rifts, creating a complex web of alliances and conflicts that shaped the social fabric of the colony. But through it all, one truth remained clear. Survival was no longer enough. They had to thrive. And that meant embracing change, unity, and the uncertain power that coursed through their veins. Beyond the human settlements, the jungle stirred with a new kind of life. Strange creatures born from the planet's response to humanity's presence, some friendly, some dangerous, but all part of the growing ecosystem where human and alien life intertwined in ways no one could have foreseen. Distant signals from other parts of the galaxy hinted at watchers and potential allies, curious about the transformation of humanity on this death world and what it might mean for the wider universe. And deep within the ancient ruins, hidden chambers held secrets yet to be revealed, messages from the lost civilization that once called Erythra 9 home, warnings and guidance carved in glowing symbols that spoke of balance, power, and the cost of hubris. Ilara and Mara, bound by leadership and friendship, knew their journey was far from over. They stood at the crossroads of destiny, guardians of a new kind of humanity born from exile and fire, facing choices that would define the next era. Would they become stewards of a living world, protectors of the fragile harmony they had forged, or risk everything in a quest for power that could ignite another reckoning? As the first light of Erythra 9's sun broke through the crimson horizon, a hush fell over the colony, the breath of a world awakening alongside its children. In that silence lay both promise and peril, a fragile balance between past and future, death and life, exile and home. Humanity had been cast out to die, but instead they had risen, changed, stronger, and ready to face whatever new dawn awaited them in a story still unfolding beneath alien stars.